6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Soundi Tavam. The IMF team meets President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and assures support for Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister says that people can select any political party to govern the country after the country is economically stable. The Land for All program begins. Sri Lanka receives 3 billion rupees worth humanitarian supplies from India. The envoys of European countries pledged to provide assistance to Sri Lanka. The Consumer Affairs Authority has published a Gazette Extraordinary prohibiting the sale or use of rice or paddy for animal feed production. In foreign news, the US Supreme Court ends constitutional right to abortion. And in sports, Sri Lanka loses the 5th ODI but claims the series win. An International Monetary Fund team for Sri Lanka called on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The meeting took place at the President's house in Colombo yesterday. The delegation will stay in Sri Lanka for a week to further study about policy issues relevant to reaching a staff-level agreement. The IMF representatives briefed the President regarding the preliminary round of discussions held with the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank and other economic authorities and experts, as well as regarding the current situation. The delegation reaffirmed their commitment to support Sri Lanka at this difficult time in line with the IMF's policies. The President elaborated on the current economic situation and expressed his gratitude to the delegation for their support to Sri Lanka during difficult times. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the people can select any political party to govern the country after the country is economically stable. The people are responsible to elect the most suitable 225 members to Parliament. The Prime Minister added that people have the right to disqualify people who lead the country to this situation. He stressed that the people have the full power and right to do so in the next election. Meanwhile, Mr. Wickremesinghe says that steps will be taken to legally grant land and house ownerships to millions of people who do not have a deed to their own lands and homes. The program to hand over land ownership to landless families under the Land for All program began yesterday at the Prime Minister's office. This program is being implemented by the Ministry of Tourism and Lands through the Land Reforms Commission and the Department of the Land Commissioner General. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. India delivered a humanitarian consignment containing 15,000 metric tons of essential items, including rice, milk powder and pharmaceuticals to Sri Lanka yesterday. The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, and several Sri Lankan ministers and MPs welcomed the donation. It consists of 14,700 metric tons of rice, 250 metric tons of milk powder and 38 metric tons of medicines donated by the people of India. The total value of this consignment is more than 3 billion Sri Lankan rupees, the Indian High Commission in Colombo said in a statement. The consignment of humanitarian supplies underscores abiding people-to-people bonds between Sri Lanka and India, as also concerns of the people of India for the well-being of their brethren in Sri Lanka, the statement read further. These supplies are planned to be distributed among beneficiaries by the Sri Lankan government in the coming days. This is the second consignment provided under a larger commitment of 40,000 metric tons of rice, 500 metric tons of milk powder and medicines by the government of Tamil Nadu. The ambassadors of European countries meeting with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the President's house in Colombo yesterday have said that Sri Lanka is a friend and they will provide assistance at this difficult time. The delegation members pointed out that a firm message about the future plans of building the country's economy will certainly pave the way for the international community to assist Sri Lanka. Nearly 90% of the country's population live in rural areas and 75% of those people depend on agriculture. The President said that by providing them with the required fertilizer and fuel, many problems as well as the issues related to the supply of food could be solved. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Consumer Affairs Authority has published a Gazette Extraordinary prohibiting the sale or use of rice or paddy for animal feed production. Accordingly, no importer, manufacturer, trader or distributor is allowed to import, sell, expose or offer for sale, store, transport, distribute or buy or purchase any rice or paddy directly from the manufacture of animal feed or otherwise as an ingredient for the manufacture of animal feed, and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, a 10-hour water cut will be imposed in Kotte and the surrounding areas today. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board said that the water supply to the following areas will be suspended for 10 hours from 10 p.m. today to 8 a.m. tomorrow. Thereby, the water supply will be disrupted in the Athulkote, Pitakote, Baddegana, Mirihana, Madivela, Talapatpitiya, Udamulla, Ambaldenia, Nugegoda and Pagoda areas, and from the Vijayarama Junction to the 7th Post Junction on High Level Road, and came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news making headlines this morning. The US Supreme Court ends constitutional right to abortion. Ukraine orders forces to withdraw from Severodonetsk, and the world's deepest shipwreck discovered. Millions of women in the US will lose the constitutional right to abortion after the Supreme Court overturned its 50-year-old Roe v. Wade decision. The judgment paves the way for individual states to ban the procedure. Half are expected to introduce new restrictions or bans. 13 have already passed so-called trigger laws to automatically outlaw abortion. President Joe Biden described it as a tragic error and urged states to enact laws to allow the procedure. After the Supreme Court ruling, abortion access is expected to be cut off for about 36 million women of reproductive age, according to research from Planned Parenthood, a healthcare organization that provides abortions. Ukrainian forces have been ordered to withdraw from Severodonetsk, according to the top regional official. The eastern city has endured weeks of bombardment as Russian forces try to take complete control of the region. A Ukrainian retreat would be significant because it would leave all the Luhansk under Russian control, except for the city of Lysychansk. Luhansk, a mainly Russian-speaking region in East Ukraine, is a key priority for President Vladimir Putin. Together with the Donetsk region, it makes up what is collectively known as Donbas, a large industrial area which has been the focus of a Russian-backed separatist movement since 2014. Explorers have found the deepest shipwreck ever identified, a U.S. Navy destroyer escort sunk during World War II. The U.S. Samuel B. Roberts went down during the Battle of Samar in the Philippine Sea in October 1944. It lies in 6,895 meters of water. Texan financier and adventurer Victor Weskowo, who owns a deep-diving submersible, discovered the Sammy B, battered but largely intact. The vessel is famed for a heroic final stand against the Japanese. Back to the headlines of the world news. The U.S. Supreme Court ends constitutional right to abortion. Ukraine orders forces to withdraw from Severodonetsk, and the world's deepest shipwreck discovered. That concludes this bulletin of world news, and on to development news. Plans are afoot to release PMB brand rice from the Paddy Marketing Board to the market next week. The Agriculture, Wildlife and Wildlife Conservation Minister Mahinda Amaravira instructed the PMB chairman Neil D'Alvis to supply rice from paddy purchased from the farmers by the board. Arrangements have been made to sell the rice under the brand name PMB rice below the maximum retail price, the minister said. Accordingly, PMB rice, manufactured and distributed by the Paddy Marketing Board, is scheduled to be sold to the public in Colombo, and the rice will be distributed in 5 and 10 kilo bags, and came to you in development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Sri Lanka won an ODI series against Australia in the home soil after 30 years. Though the Lions lost the fifth and final match played yesterday at the R. Premadasa Stadium, the team has already won the series. Batting first, Sri Lanka were all out for 160 runs in 43.1 overs. Chamika Karunaratne scored his maiden half-century and scored 75 runs. Kusal Mendis scored 26 runs. In reply, Australia hit the target score in 39.3 overs, while 63 balls remained. Chamika Karunaratne nominated as the man of the match, and Kusal Mendes was adjudged as the man of the series. That's sports news. We'll look at business news next.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Motor industry giant Toyota is recalling 2,700 of its first mass-produced all-electric vehicles over concerns their wheels may fall off. A spokesperson told the BBC that bolts on the BZ4X's wheels can loosen to the point where the wheel can detach from the vehicle after low use mileage. The recall comes after 2 months after the car was launched in Japan. The car maker, Subaru, also says that for the same reason it will recall 403 electric cars it developed with Toyota. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
The UK households are cutting back on food shopping as the rising cost of living bites into budgets. Nearly half of the adults surveyed by the UK Office for National Statistics said that they had bought less food in the past fortnight due to higher prices. The price of food was also the most common reason for why those asked were seeing their monthly outgoings rising overall, the ONS said. Supermarkets Asda and Tesco have said customers are cutting back on shopping. And that's economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Showery conditions over the southwestern part of the island and the western and Sabragama provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts are expected to enhance slightly from today. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabragama and the northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimetres may occur at some places in the Sabragama province and in the Kandy and Nuwara districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts during the afternoon or night. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The IMF team meets President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and assures support for Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister says that people can select any political party to govern the country after the country is economically stable. The Land for All programme begins. Sri Lanka receives 3 billion rupees worth humanitarian supplies from India. The envoys of European countries pledged to provide assistance to Sri Lanka. The Consumer Affairs Authority has published a Gazette Extraordinary prohibiting the sale or use of rice or paddy for animal feed production. The US Supreme Court ends constitutional right to abortion. And Sri Lanka loses the 5th ODI but claims the series win. And with that, we conclude this morning's news broadcast.